How are we going, folks? Welcome back to the Nightmare Cabin and welcome to day 10 of our Judas Priest series, our countdown to Invincible Shield. And yes, we have reached the landmark, album number 10. And it's a controversial album, to say the least. So, obviously, you know it. We are talking about Turbo. I've got two editions here, actually. Normally when I get the special edition, I was getting the remasters. And they're worth keeping because you always get the two bonus tracks, one studio outtake. You get some interesting songs on there. Obviously, was it Bring Out Your Light or Shine Your Light? I can't remember what it's called now. For Screaming for Vengeance was a great song. But then you get like an early edition of Rock Hard Run 3, which you had on Killing Machine. So when a special edition of an album, like the 30th anniversary, so British Steel, Screaming for Vengeance, Defenders of the Faith, and Turbo, I normally just keep, because you normally get a slightly alternative artwork as well. I normally just keep the booklet and the CD and put it in with it, but for some reason I didn't with Turbo. But yeah, we on the 30th anniversary edition, you get a concert over two CDs. So a concert from the Turbo tour, and while we're talking about the live stuff, there's also a DVD of that tour. Bear with me. And yeah, they released Electric Eye, and this is a couple of DVDs. You get all the videos on one, and you get a concert from the 86 Fuel for Life tour, and that concert was originally released on video as well. But yeah, you get it here. I know you get a lot of BBC TV performances and a lot of bits and bobs and extras as well, so that's worth picking up. I will be going through live albums and DVDs through the album, whatever one is relevant to the album I'm talking about at the time. So yeah, let's get into it. Turbo is a bit, it's kind of what they attempted on Point of View. They do this time, but this time they pull it off. Now, everyone either loves or hates this album in equal measure. But I quite like the album for what it is. I mean, yeah, they've introduced synth guitars. I don't actually know what a synth guitar is. I keep hearing synth guitars and I'll just go, oh, right, yeah, them. I suppose, I think people initially don't like the album, but when taken into context that it is only really this one album, they can kind of just, all right, we'll take it for what it is. And yeah, I like it on the basis that it is just one album. If they went completely like this in this direction, forever, then maybe I'd feel differently about it. But it just seems throughout Priest's career, when you're going through the catalogue like I'm doing now, they just hone in on a certain element of their sound for one album, and they've always had a slight pop element to them. Like, they've always been verse, chorus, solo or interlude, one last chorus, and then we're out. That's broadly how their songs are structured, and it's always with a good melody, a good chorus, good hooks. So nothing's really changed in terms of the songwriting approach. They've just gone straight in. This is more of a production job, and well, I suppose this is going to get. There was a slight trend for a little while, and I wish people explored it a bit more. And now, obviously, with AI, it'll probably, some people will probably deep dive into it. But someone will record a song or an album, for example. I've got it down there. I can't be bothered to go get it, but I'll be covering it in due course anyway when I do the Pantera series. But there was a Pantera tribute group called Sham Terror, and they re-recorded. They didn't record the original. They recorded power metal in the style of Vulgar Display of Power. And who else did it as well? Gus Rios? No, is that his name? He's the drummer in Malevolent Creation, Left 4 Dead. He was the drummer in Malevolent Creation. He's now in Left 4 Dead. And what was that other group? The guy from Matt Harvey from Exhumed did like a death tribute. Well, he's in a death tribute group now, Left 4 Dead, but he was recording. Oh, name escapes me. But yeah, Gus Rios, the drummer in them. I can't remember if it was with Matt Harvey, to be honest. But they recorded Disciple by Slayer as if it was recorded in the 80s. And I think if someone recorded this, or if someone ran it through AI, this album with like with a more metal production, or in the style of Painkiller, for example, or just took the 80s sheen off it, took the keyboards and the, you know, I think a lot of these songs would still stand up. It still sounds like Judas Priest, basically. They've just gone in on that more radio friendly, commercial, should we say, element to their sound. So basically, you're getting on this album an album of singles, really. Now, following off from Screaming for Vengeance and Defenders of the Faith, we're on good stead anyway. And reading interviews with the band, I've been, referring to the book I showed off. They basically just said we've never been stagnant. We've never really. We've always chopped and changed. We've always tried to take a different angle, a different approach. And this was basically a Judas Priest album focusing on a more 80s. I'll just say 80s because keyboards, synths, guitars, drum machines. I don't know if if it was a drum machine on this album, but it does sound very, maybe he was drumming on an electric drum kit. I don't know, but they thought they'd focus on that sound, really. And let's face it, as much as this album gets ripped, when Judas Priest play Turbo Lover today, the crowd goes mental. And they do. They just do. And you can see them playing Wacken or something like that, and all these, black metalers are Turbo Lover. So they're Judas Priest. They can do what they want, basically. So, yeah, they did it. They focused on that particular element of the sound for one album and then quickly moved on. So, if you don't like it, that's fine, but they did move on from it quickly. It's like when people don't like a band's album, like Blaze Bayley era Iron Maiden or Tim Owens era Priest. It's like, yeah, but they're not in the band anymore. So you got what you wanted. Now you can just listen to the albums and enjoy them for what they are rather than what they're not. And that's what it's like with this, really. And like I say, they are still metal songs. They are still Judas Priest songs. I mean, as much as there's a shift or a focus on a certain particular type of sound, it doesn't sound completely alienated. Like when you listen to these songs, it is instantly recognisable as Rob Halford singing. It's KK and Glenn's guitars. I mean, so Turbo Lover is, it is a classic Priest song. For better, for worse, it's in the band's set today, and the crowd always react well to it. But Locked In, I think, is the underrated gem on this one. And there's a couple of underrated gems on this, actually. Again, the guitar solos when it goes into the solo section on Locked In, that's just as good as any other. That would arguably be up there in the best solo sections. That is classic KK and Glenn going back and forth, and they're all over the fretboard. It's technical, it's melodic. Private Property is catchy. All the songs on this are kind of anthemic, Keep your hands off private property. Whoa. Parental Guidance. No, we don't need no parental guidance. I can't remember how it goes. But yeah, Rock You All Around the World is a great one. It's like down, da da down, 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 bam, 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 bam. Yeah, all the songs are catchy. They're all earworms. As much as you may hate this album, you will get these songs stuck in your head. And I've got to say, I think Turbo is actually everyone's guilty pleasure. It is a contradiction because of how much I ripped into Point of Entry, but I didn't dislike Point of Entry because it went all... Because that was another... You know, I said that was a reaction of them, you know, a couple of guys from Birmingham, where it's very... You know, it's very industrial. There's a lot of factories everywhere. They're working on, you know, there's a lot of steel factories. It's dull and grey, like it all, and always pissing down with rain, and it's cold because England has very harsh winters. And in that particular time of year, like it is now, we're in February, and it's like overcast and drizzly. To all of a sudden being pulled out of that, and you're in Ibiza, you're not going to be recording grey, miserable music, you know. So Point of Entry was a reaction to that, and I did like hard rocking. I did like Riding on the Highway. I like those songs, and I like the Desert Plains, the title track. I just thought the rest of the album was in one ear and out the other, and they weren't particularly inspired. So I like this album for the complete opposite reason, because these songs do stick in my head. They do sound inspired. So I didn't have a problem with them going commercial like they have on this one, because they've pulled it off. The point I'm making is they pulled it off on this album. What they intended to do, they did do. They did achieve it. And Out in the Cold is a really good song. Again, it's not a very metal song at all, but it's a very 80s pop song. Just like I said with how Love Bites should have been picked up for a film soundtrack of some sort. Out in the Cold could have. They could have sold that to a pop act, and it would have been a massive hit. It would have been like a one-hit wonder for someone else. But yeah, and you would have it would have been like a little trivia that Judas Priest wrote it. But I'm trying to think of who's the yeah. Now apparently people will go, oh, you know, yeah, but it sounds 80s, it sounds pop, it sounds like it was Stock Aitken and Waterman, Stock Aitken Waterman, who obviously did a big string of hits in the 80s. They mainly known for producing Rick Astley, Never Gonna Give You Up, the early Kylie Minogue songs, and all the rest of it. Well, apparently Judas Priest did record a recording session with them, and the session was scrapped. So if this is what they released, I dread to think what they recorded with them, but I'm sure it'll come out on a box set in about 100 years. But now you could say with Turbo, yes, Joe, this is all well and good, but this is a very hard album to defend when you consider this was released in 1986, and that was the year Master of Puppets and Rain in Blood come out. Because you can go, yeah, but let's take a couple of steps back. 1986 was, you know, 1980 was the pinnacle of heavy metal. Not quite. It had commercially a hell of a long way to go. And I think 86, you know, MTV bands commercially, I think are hitting their peak. And it seems metal's kind of splitting into two avenues, because obviously you've got your Def Leppard are blowing up at this point as well. When did Hysteria come out? Let me just quickly look that up, because obviously that blew up, and you know, you got like, you know, your glam metal, MTV metal, shall we say, 80s big hair. So you got like your White Snakes, you've got obviously Def Leppard. Pyromania, Hysteria, 1985. So you got the big MTV hit, big hair, you know, big videos, big production. Yeah, people were either going down the Def Leppard, White Snake route, or they were going down the heavy route. Thrash metal was coming to the forefront as well. And 86, when was the first Death album? yeah, the underground is bubbling away now, and we're getting heavier. So it's like, right, are we going to go MTV or are we going to go heavy underground? Well, as we're going to talk about it in the next couple of days, Judas Priest actually did both. Because between, you've got this on one end, Painkiller on the other, over the course of, this is 86. We've got Ram It Down to do tomorrow. So 86, 88, and then in 1990, you got Painkiller. So for the course of 4 years, we've gone from one extreme to the other, which we'll be analysing in the next couple of days. But 1986 also, you've got Iron Maiden releasing Somewhere in Time, and they're messing about with synth guitars as well. And then they go full pelt with the synthesizers on Son of the Seventh Son. Iron Maiden are another band where the varied of their back catalogue, they focus on an element of their sounds. They're not messing about with keyboards and messing about with the epic sort of, the epic, let's just say epic part of their thing. Keyboards adds to that. They just went full pelt on Seventh Son and then came out, right, what worked, what didn't, let's add that when needed going forward. And then obviously with X Factor, the proggy element of their sound, they go full pelt on that and then use that, so on and so forth. And that's all that Judas Priest are doing here. It's a good, fun, guilty pleasure album. This is the you've got savoury and this is the sweet, shall we say. But it's just a good slice of 80s MTV summer popish metal, basically. But it's good fun. And yeah, I love Locked In. I think Parental Guidance. I like them all. I like every song on this, to be honest. I do really like Out in the Cold as well. And on these concerts, obviously you get a concert on 2 CDs here, and you get that concert on the DVD that I showed off earlier. They open with Out in the Cold, which is a bit of a ballsy move. They play quite a lot of this on that tour as well. Let me have a quick count up. 1, 2. They do Out in the Cold, Locked In. Love Bites isn't on this. That's the one. Right, here we go. Out in the Cold, Locked In. Private Property. Rock You All Around the World. Turbo Lover. Yeah, so what's that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 5 or 6 tracks off this out of 9. So they played a good chunk of it on this tour. But yes, they do listen to their audience and they did adjust accordingly. Like I say, maybe just a little too many sugars were thrown in the mix this time round. And yeah, I'm okay with this album, but I wouldn't have wanted the band to stay like this forever. So all well and good, but don't stick with it, I think was the answer here. But they do adjust it on the album going forward. So a good little artifact of where the band were at the time, I think, is the best way to sum up Turbo. And a one-off that can just be enjoyed for what it is, not slagged off for what it's not. Put it like that. And the songs are infectious, and it is what it is. So, guilty pleasure. And yeah, like I say, they've redeemed themselves for point of entry on this one. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed that, folks. It's funny, isn't it? It's the controversial albums are always the ones that have the most to be spoken about. I think this is probably the longest one I've done so far. Funnily enough, we went for a phase during the Metal Show with Gully and Joe days. We thought it'd be better to review albums that are a little bit off the cuff, that people, this is a bit like Justify Your Shitty Taste, but the Decibel Music, Decibel magazine do. And yeah, we were like getting people on, going like, "What's an album that you think everyone slags this album off, but I really like it," or "I think this album's really underrated." And the singer of Live Burial was meant to come on. We never managed to track him down, But Live Burial were a British death metal band. They split up last year, unfortunately, but they put out 3. I think they did 3 albums. I can't remember if it's 2 or 3, but yeah, they were really good and they were fantastic live. But they recently played their last show, and yeah, the singer of them wanted to do Turbo. He's like, yeah, I love that album. But yeah, we never got the show off the ground. So hopefully this will make its way to him. And he. But yeah, what do you think of Turbo? Do you hate it? Do you think it should be melted down for glue and deleted from the catalogue and forgotten about forever? Or do you secretly love it? Let me know. And I'll see you tomorrow for Ram It Down. I'll speak to you later, folks. Take care.